Yes, so today we're just going to share our experiences in terms of digital adherence technology. So in front of the picture there, you see our program manager in one of our national training, and he's there, and it also shows like ownership in terms of NTP. So as we go through our presentation, you actually learn that we actually started as a pilot in one of our regions, and then NTP had to take over to scale up in other regions. So just a bit of background, eSwatini is actually divided into 4 administrative regions. I'll not go through the names because you will forget soon after. But generally, those two, is it green there? Okay. Those 2 regions in green and yellow, they are more rural. So the other in green, we call it Lubombo. In the blue one, we call it Shiseleni. Maybe Christians still remember. So in each and every region, there's a partner that supports our TB HIV activities, and they are mainly PEPFAR partners, and we also have MSF, and we have Baylor, and Baylor mainly supports our children and adolescents. So digital adherence technology has been mainly introduced to support DRTB patients in eSwatini, and we have about 14 sites in the whole country, and in each region there are about at least 3 sites. So these sites are mainly health centers as well as hospitals. So as we used an opportunity of COVID-19, so I understand people were looking at COVID-19 that it's a disruption and a whole lot, but for us, somehow we appreciated it when it emerged. We had to think of other means in terms of monitoring our patients. So during that time, we know many people with pre-existing vulnerabilities were actually at risk of death. So that included our TB patients, especially our DRTB patients. And in eSwatini, we have high TB HIV co-infection rate, about 71%. So which means also patients with TB had HIV and had also NCDs. So it actually posed them to high risk of death. So we had to think of other means in terms of monitoring them. So MSF, with support from National TB Program, introduced video observed therapy in one of the regions called Shiseleni. So it's a rural region. And we introduced VOT in May 2020 to actually decrease the exposure of DRTB patients to COVID-19. So VOT, we all know, is part of the digital health interventions, and it's a patient-centered approach. And it also allowed us to actually decentralize directly observed therapy. So we actually before were using in-person dot where we use a community treatment supporter or a family treatment supporter to actually monitor the patient as they take treatment at home. And we'd only review these patients after a month at a facility to actually maybe refill or review if there are any issues. So with introduction of VOT, we saw that there was less physical contact with healthcare workers as well as treatment supporters. So during COVID, we're talking about social distancing. So we also aligned to that. And we're actually able to promptly identify any adverse drug reactions by remote visual inspection of our patients. And we're also able to empower patients to take responsibility of their health. And we're using the platform, the SureAdhere platform. And our eligibility criteria were mainly all DRTB patients, as irregardless of age, as well as they were initiated on MDR treatment, they were eligible. And we also had to look at the use of the smartphone, if they could use it properly or maintain its functionality, they were also eligible. We didn't want to leave out the children, so we included them. So those less than 12, we then said probably the guardian or the parent could also be trained to use the VOT so that they can assist this child who is enrolled. We also looked at the network coverage. So we also included patients who were within MTN. So MTN is probably the main network in eSwatini, and it has a wider coverage than the Swazi Mobile. We also included our psychiatric patients, taking into consideration mental status evaluation. And also we included a part where if there are other patients who actually had smartphones and were willing to use it, we also included them. So I think just the difference with Nigeria, we were buying cell phones for our patients. But so we had to include like a contract between the patient as well as NTCP that they needed to sign, that they had to abide to certain regulations. And then if they sign the consent, then we agree. Then the nurse then explains the VOT procedure to the patient, hand over the cell phone with the installed application. So we're using the SureDear application. The patient then takes medicines at home, records whilst they are taking, and send this video. And this video actually syncs automatically, and then the nurse at the facility will then view this video. If there's any issues, then they can actually call the patients just to know what could have happened, and probably if they didn't receive any videos. So this is just a summary in terms of the dashboard. So in a month, this is what you see for the patient, particularly the videos that have been sent, they are synced to the doses, and you are able to summarize how many doses the patient managed to take this month and how many videos did they send. If they use in-person, like sometimes they are admitted or there's been some interruptions. So you're able to calculate that at a click of a button. So in terms of roadmap, in terms of scale up, yes, we started as a pilot in one region. We learned a lot from that implementation. So we used that to advocate for more funding. And it was quite tough, but I think data is always important. And we also used COVID in that instance because they were talking about social distancing. So we actually managed to get funding from Global Fund for 3 years. So we have funding up to 2024. So we then were able to scale up from one region to all the regions in eSwatini. So eSwatini is quite small, so you can scale up anything, right? Yes. So, so you guys can scale up and say 75 sites. We can say we scale up to the whole country. So we had to, yes. So we had to prepare. Yeah, it has its own challenges. You'll be surprised. It's small, but the challenges are many. Christian can attest. We had to prepare a lot of documents, and when you are dealing with Global Fund, you know, it's not needed to know the eligibility. We needed to also, even our PR had to understand where we are coming from. So we also conducted national training where you had to target key people, the NTP, even our partners, all of them we needed to include. We had to also ensure if our PR is available, also joins in. And then these were also followed by on-site. And then we managed to procure our VOT equipment. So we have cell phones, we have laptops for the facilities, and we managed to distribute that. So the Global Fund grant started in October last year. So our plan was that by January we would start, but unfortunately in terms of scale up, we only managed to start last week. So we explained some of our challenges as we go through. So in terms of so also another thing that we learned is that not everyone will take up VOT. So in as much as we have the funds, not everyone will take it up. And we have seen data from MSF that only 40 to 50% of all our DRTB patients, in as much as you say you have a phone, you're eligible, they will not take it up, okay, for various reasons. So that data also we used it when we're requesting like how many phones we want, how are we going to scale up. We looked at probably the target would be 50% for VOT and probably 50% for the normal, the P dot. So up to now, we have managed to enroll about 50 patients and 33 have been assigned outcomes, 29 were cured, only one died, actually had lung cancer. We had 3 patients whom we had to stop VOT due to poor adherence, and we had to move them to in-person dot, where we are using the community treatment supporter, and one of them we had to admit for facility DOT. So I think what was good is we were able to pick this up as early as possible. And with video observed therapy, you are able to reliably and efficiently review patient adherence because you are seeing the patient. I understand with the smart box, the other, and I would want to also learn a lot from that. And the DRTB patients were actually empowered, and they reported that there is more privacy, confidentiality, and they also reported comfort because they could use this in their own homes. And also from the healthcare worker perspective, they were able to identify poor adherence as early as possible, and they could actually intervene. And there were minimal interruptions actually during COVID, despite the strict lockdown. Patients were also shielded from COVID-19 with lessons learned from MSF. We're able to get more funding. And HIV program is actually looking at this from NTP, that they would also want to adopt DAT for their special groups, especially the adolescents and those patients with high viral loads. So we foresee that I think a lot of partners are actually embracing it, and we hope in future we will also have a lot of support. So we had challenges. Yes, some of them I've already alluded, that some still refused VOT. And one of the reasons was that others said we're not confident using the smartphone, and others preferred the PDOT. It's because I will explain, we have a certain package where a treatment supporter, we have a stipend. So some felt like, then I'll forgo this stipend, then they would say, I would rather not get the phone. So to ensure that they could also train more our patients, we printed job aid to assist healthcare workers to train the patients and use of the app. We also advise the healthcare workers to communicate more on VOT now, especially for the new patients. It's tough for the old ones, but the new patients, I'm hoping we'll win them. Some patients still struggle with adherence in as much despite VOT support, so we still offer them the PDOT. And data package actually depletes before month end, so we've tried to talk to our patients in terms of data usage. We've also disabled some of the apps, and we only left WhatsApp so that sometimes they would need to call the healthcare workers for certain issues. And then network coverage, sometimes it delays uploading of videos. So we advise the patients to look for a spot, find the video can upload it. It doesn't need any internet. So you upload it, then you can probably walk around, find spots. We realize they actually have certain spots where they can just stand and then the video can upload. Then we also have challenges during our scale up. So yes, we were supposed to start as early as possible, but there were a lot of delays due to logistical challenges. Back and forth, some activities not approved. So we learned that we needed to work as close as possible with our PR to fast track and also educate them so that they understand what you really need. And we also had to reach out to MSF to provide us with technical assistance, and we are happy. They even recruited a VOT coordinator who sits within NTCP to push this. And we're able to implement by May. And even handing off of the equipment, we also told about risks and a whole lot. So we had to develop a risk mitigation plan, which we had to share with the PR to understand, and then they would manage to hand over some of the phones. But along the way, you know, there are certain things you will not know black and white that you need this and this. Then later on, we realize, oh, the phones don't have phone covers and screen guards, and it's going to be a risk. Once they fall, they're going to break. So we are also advocating to get some savings to cover that. But we have told our patients to also assist if they can. But we will also maybe go over later on and also make sure we put those covers. Then the TB staff also highlighted more work, and they were like, reviewing these videos is going to take a lot of time. Okay, so what we did, we had to look into all that. Yes, we needed the nurse to do it, but we are now looking at possibilities of using lay cadres, because there are lay cadres within the facilities whom we can train to review, but being supported by the nurse. So these are the other strategies we are looking into. So we just wanted to share this in terms of the package that we offer our DRA patients. So we have the in-person DOT, where a patient is actually provided with transport allowance, which is different both for intensive and continuation phase. They also are offered with food. Then they have a community treatment supporter. So this supporter is given a stipend of about 500 Rand. I don't know how many US dollars. And then we have the VDOT, is the same, but the only difference is the smartphone. So they are given a smartphone and data every month. So we then calculated, especially when you're justifying to Global Fund, we had to calculate both. It's more or less the same. If we use a package of 2 gig, it will be about 3.650 vis-a-vis what we were using before, which was 4.5. But if we go higher, we're also trying up the higher one, 3.5 gig, it will be 5,000, which is also a bit up. But I think these are some of the information we use to say we could still use the same package to also introduce VDOT. So I also have some 2 videos. Probably we'll just share with the team where the healthcare worker was also sharing their perspective in terms of VOT. These are from the MSF site. And we also have a patient testimony who are also sharing how they've actually experienced their successes and some of the challenges they've had. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Debrah, for that. Does anybody have any questions? A lot.
Thank you, Debrah, for the good presentation. A quick one on concerning the funds. You mentioned about the risk mitigation and distribution plan. Can you please expand a little bit on what exactly was involved in that?
All right. So in the risk mitigation, it was more of what happens when the phone is lost. So we needed to explain that it's also part of our contract with the patient. So when the phone is lost, we advise the patient, you go to the police and report. And with the police report, we can go to MTN and we are able to track the phone. And also another one was that in case it's not functioning well, we didn't allow them to go to these outlets to sort them out. We requested them to contact the healthcare worker or even come to the facility. We have a look at it and we ask our IT to have a look at that. But in the meantime, we also highlighted that if ever if we stop or the phone is stolen, we need to notify us so that we put you on the P dot, like the physical one, where we have someone to monitor. So in this instance, we could even ask the family treatment supporter to monitor the patient so that we don't disrupt the adherence. So I think those were some of the issues we highlighted. And also in case where it falls, it breaks also, they are supposed to also share with us. Then in terms of the distribution plan, because they were like, okay, these are 105 smartphones, are we going to give you all to NTP or we are supposed to keep them? So what we were agreed was that we used our data. We managed to see that at least every month, how many patients are we enrolling? So we used that number to say we will enroll probably 10 every month, but we also need a buffer of about 10. So we also said keeping them probably at NTP will not be safe. It was safer with them. So we agreed that we will be giving us maybe 20 cell phones every month. So that was the distribution plan. Then on the end of the facility, how are we going to be distributing? We also looked because we have a patient support database, so we are able to know how many patients are enrolled, like approximate per facility. So we then also ask the focal person in terms of how we give the funds, and we also ask them to be calling us if ever they know they've got some patients, because in terms of consenting, even if the patient is diagnosed today, they still need to do the test. So when they come, tell them about VOT. If they agree, they already tell us that when the patient comes, when the bloods come, we will need to initiate this patient. So please, can you share with us maybe how many phones? So we even agreed for bigger facilities that we might leave 2, 3 phones here, others how many. So that's basically the distribution plan. Yeah. So yeah, logistics, when we deal with this, there's a lot of logistics and some you learn as you go by.
Thank you, Deborah, for the presentation. In the inclusion criteria, you talk about patients, considering patients who can use smartphones. Don't you provide training for the patients that cannot use smartphones so that you can get a big number? Like the way you do it for children, at least you consider the guardians that can take these videos. For the adults, didn't you consider like treatment supporters? If someone is in the household and can use a smartphone, can't that person help the patient, maybe an aged patient? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So in terms of can use smartphones, I think it was also bringing in the concept of they could use it before or after training. So probably it's more of making it clear because we train them, even if they say they don't, we then train them and we have sort of a job aid that we have printed. The patient even goes with it at home. So the healthcare worker is just also going through to help the training, and then the patient also goes with that same instruction sheet at home it has the local language and also English. So we still train, that's the truth. So probably it's more of the English there, but we looked at both sides. Then also, could we consider a treatment supporter? So that one we wanted, but because we already have a precedence that a treatment supporter is paid. So we were worried that this time we say, oh yes, you can help them, but we are not going to give you a stipend. So it's something that after maybe the old patients are gone when we have new, it's something that we could probably consider for a family one. But then we explain that there won't be there won't be any stipend. You are just there to help the patient. So I think that is also a good one. We can consider maybe moving forward. So that's the whole thing about change. It's when you set a precedent, sometimes it's then a bit difficult to change from there, but we are looking into it.
Thanks. I think we have time for one more question.
Thank you, Debrah, and to all the presenters that presented before. My question goes to Debrah, perhaps even others who presented before could share their country perspective. Were there any country regulatory measures that you had to satisfy, or rather regulatory requirements that you had to satisfy to bring on video DOT? My second question is, how were you able to maintain patient confidentiality? This is with regard to data security. Thank you.
So yes, so yeah. So I think we had a lot of discussions because we are using cloud. So you could either buy a server and have a server in country, or you can use cloud. Having a server, the expense, I think, is a lot of money, which we thought we could not afford. I think it was how many US dollars, something 60 something thousand. And we were like, how are we going to afford that? Then there were discussions within the country, especially the IT, were not confident about it, that why are we using cloud? They felt like our data will be somewhere and people will be viewing that. But I think with many discussions with SureIdea and with MSF, they actually explained that this security is actually good. But I think the IT people in the house could explain better. That is not my field. But I guess for me, it was more of, I just want to ensure that when we go to our seniors, I'm saying the truth here. So we were told it's actually secure. So, but today, I think it will be one of the discussions we have. And I've seen in most countries, it's one of the hurdles where people don't want to start because of that. What was the other thing I wanted to add? What was the other question? Oh, yes. And then also in terms of the videos, they don't stay on the phone. Once you upload, it's gone. Even if you lose the phone, I think that was the other one. There's nothing on your phone. You upload, it then sent to cloud. The healthcare worker is the one who is going to view. But in terms of other things, do you want to add? We have our VOT coordinate. She can actually even add other things.
Thank you, Dr. Debrah, and thank you for all these questions. I can see you're paying attention, and I have a feeling we're doing very well, so this is good. Yeah, so basically, with all our patients, investment on teaching the patient on how to use the application and the phone. So that's the most part. You need to invest in it. And this is the most difficult part, especially because of the healthcare workers. Healthcare workers do not have time. We know this. You need to invest on teaching the patient on this is how you use the phone. So as Dr. Debrah has already mentioned, so we have a guide or instructions on how to actually go step by step. That this is what you do. You gather your medication before you can actually get your medication, gather your water before you can actually press record on the phone, if I may say. So this teaching the patient on how to use the application, it actually minimizes or it decreases challenge is, say the patient would record videos that won't be useful or that will be invalid. So if they have been trained that I don't just press record, I get everything before I can record, it minimizes that, make sure that all videos that are coming through are actually videos that have content, because that also counts. The healthcare worker would not maybe just guess to say, I'm thinking this 1 minute video is the one, but they have to go through all the videos to actually see which one is valid. So that is why we invest more on teaching the patient on how to use the smartphone. And then with the other thing, as they record the videos, they just log on to the Show Adhere application. Maybe if we have time, I can show you guys later on as the workshop continues. They log on to the Show Adhere application, put their username, their password, and then press record on the application. As soon as they remove their hand from the stop record button, it just syncs onto the cloud. Yeah. All right. That's what I'll add. Thank you.